I got some good news and I got some bad news. The good news, I am the bad news. In this video, we'll be sound deadening the roof of my homie Victor's 2010 Mazda 3 sedan. Since his Lambo doors make it pretty much impossible to take out the headliner without damaging it just a little bit, we're also going to be changing the look of it and adding a vinyl material. The headliner part is pretty much bonus material. This video is mostly about the sound deadening part, but if you're doing the headliner, this video will still be relevant because you're gonna still remove the same parts and do it the same way, except for getting the headliner out of the car, which if you don't have Lambo doors will be way easier. So we'll be using Noico 80mm sound deadening to address the vibrations in the roof. And we'll be using Noico 315mm heat and sound insulating foam to kill the road noise and the higher frequencies, stuff like that.
Damn.
The reason sound deadening is so important is because vibrations kill bass. It also improves the sound quality of your music. You're actually getting a chance to hear the music directly coming out of the speakers instead of coming out of the speakers and then being reverberated through the metal and the plastic. In total, the tools and materials you need, pretty much just some hand tools. Trim removal tools definitely help a lot because you won't scratch up the plastic. You'll also need some rags and alcohol or some kind of other degreaser to clean off the surface that you're gonna be sound deadening. You also need something to cut the sound deadening with. Having a sound deadening roller is pretty much essential, especially if you're gonna do a lot of the car, or if you plan on doing this a lot. Definitely get yourself a roller and try to get one with some bearings in it so that it doesn't kill your arm. It makes a huge difference. And I definitely recommend having some gloves. The foil is sharp, Be careful. The process of sound deadening is pretty much the same no matter what car or part you're putting it on. You just remove the piece that you're sound deadening or whatever's in the way. You're gonna have to remove the visors and the clips that connect them, which is basically just gonna be a Phillips head screwdriver and the trim removal tools if you have them, or if not, just something else to pry out the clip. You kind of need two poking devices at once. Wiggle them, there you go. You'll be removing the handles. These, you just gotta kind of get behind this area right here and this area right here, kind of pry them out, and this is one piece. They're made up of two clips that you have to kind of pry out, and then once those two clips are popped out, you can pull out the whole handle, one side at a time pretty much. You have to remove the dome light, which is pretty much just some trim removal tools. My bad. There's some clips that are holding it in. You pretty much just gotta pull it out around those clips or push the clips in and pull it down. It's pretty easy if you have trim removal tools. It's not too bad if you don't. Where the back seat is, there's a couple push pins up on the roof. They're kind of tough. You'll see in the video I use the trim removal tools. That's why these are so handy. If you don't have some, get some. You also gotta take off the pillars. You're just gonna pull them, they're gonna pop because there's some pressure clips, and then you use a screwdriver on this piece right here, and you actually turn it to go sideways out of this hole. So you'll skirt way out. So this is the same kind of connection that's in the front. For the B pillar, you gotta pop off the bottom part a little bit by just pulling it. You have to remove the cover on the seatbelt. You actually have to take off the seatbelt bolt to remove the B pillar. 14mm for that one. There's the C pillar. And then you also have to remove the weather seal. You don't gotta take off the whole thing. Pretty much just peel it about halfway, enough for you to step over it so it's not in the way. The actual headliner is held up by this little loop of fabric that goes onto a metal hook on the roof. And to get that off, you just push the headliner forward, tilt the mirror down so that it goes forward and doesn't crash into the mirror. And it'll kind of drop off the hook, but be careful because once it does that, it's free. It'll drop off onto you. Be careful. In order to take the headliner out of the car, you have to actually peel off the wires for the dome lights and stuff, which are held in place by this solid adhesive. Without Lambo doors, getting the headliner out of the car should be pretty easy. With Lambo doors, it's a bitch. And if you have Lambo doors, there's pretty much no choice. You're pretty much gonna have to bend the headliner. So if you're thinking about getting Lambo doors, do your headliner first. We put a pretty good crease in it when we took it out, but you gotta do what you gotta do. We just folded it real quick and did it as fast as we could. After we put the new headliner on there, it doesn't really look all that bad. You can't really tell. But once the headliner is actually removed, you can clean the surface of the metal. For the most part, it's not gonna be too dirty. Shouldn't be too much to clean. Pretty much just gonna make sure this area is not too dusty so the sound doesn't stick good. And then once you got it clean, you can start applying your sound deadening. Pretty much just measure, cut, stick, roll, repeat until whatever your sound deadening is done. It's not super complicated. It's pretty much just a big open space. So you just measure the space between the two braces. It's about 9 inches. 1 or 2 whole sheets is pretty much good. So this one would go like that. You might have to cut the second sheet, a little short, but for the most part, it's big pieces of rectangles. You don't necessarily need to get the braces, but it won't hurt if you do. You know, like if you have the spare material, it's not a bad idea. The most important area is the flat, open parts of the skin, because that's thin metal and it's a large flat piece. So those are like the worst vibrations. So say you're not somebody who's a bass head, not into car audio, all you really need to worry about is a couple big strips on the open parts between the braces, and you'll notice a huge difference. After the sound deadening, you're gonna apply the foam. The adhesive on the back of the foam is like super sticky. You can't readjust the pieces once you put them down, so you gotta be careful that you're putting it where you want it. And you wanna cut it as little as possible so that no air can get through, pretty much. The foam is also really helpful as padding between pieces for any part of the car. It's a super good idea in between the bracing and the actual skin of the roof, because that could like slap against each other, so you put some sound deadening and some foam in there and it's cushion. So that's pretty much the sound deadening and the foam part. And we did 100% coverage because that's just how we do things around here. You don't necessarily have to, but for a box of Noico, like it's cheap enough that like once you have the headliner off, why do half of it? You know, that's my philosophy. So yeah, now we'll talk about the headliner. I want to preface this by saying we're not doing this like the right way. You're supposed to actually take off the fabric. We didn't do that. We just sprayed the glue and put the new fabric right on top of the old one. So since I'm saying that from the jump, I don't want to hear it. I already know we're not doing it the right way. We knew that from the get-go. But now that you're understanding the type of work we're doing, and you're like, okay, pretty much to do your headliner, all you gotta do is make sure you have enough material first of all. So measure your headliner and make sure you get some spare. When I did my last car's headliner, I used this adhesive, headliner and fabric adhesive. Victor couldn't find that one, so he bought some other one, but it didn't quite work, and we ended up having to redo it. This is a contact adhesive, so it glues to itself. So you put it on both materials, basically wait for like 5 to 10 minutes, and when they touch, boom, then they're solid. And then you pretty much just rub it in and smooth it out as you go and make sure that it has a good bond. To get it around the edge of the headliner, you'll need to make some relief cuts in the corners and also like in the holes that you'll need to cut for the dome lights and stuff like that. And a relief cut is pretty much in the round part of the corner. You're just making cuts from the corner away from the corner so that it's easier to wrap the material around. I'm not a professional in the slightest, so I left like an inch or 2 inches at some points just to make sure the little flap on the backside had a good stick. We had a crease in the vinyl, and so you can see that we were using the heat gun and the roller to pretty much smooth it out and kind of like use the roller like an iron. And it was working pretty good. You could still see it. Like if I told you that there was a crease in it at one point, you could see where the crease probably was. But if I hadn't said anything, like you probably wouldn't even know. So the results definitely aren't show-stopping or anything like that. But I mean, not everything has to be like a show quality, you know, permanent fixture in your car. Like it's okay to like try some stuff. It seems like there's like no way to do this other than to like bend it.
Bite the bullet.
Yeah. It's still good. Gotta be honest, the before and after for this video is pretty much the same as the before and after for the last video. You gotta understand though, I did the work at the same time. The doors and the roof were pretty much one project for us, just over the course of like a couple days. So the before and afters were the same. Consider this the before. So to wrap this up, Victor was really happy with the results.
Noico, I'm buying a load more.
By adding the Noico, we reduced the road noise and the vibrations, pretty much just improved the listening experience to music and the driving experience in general, you know, like it's pretty crazy how much of a difference it makes. We used 2 boxes of sound deadening and 2 boxes of foam, and we were able to get 100% coverage on the door panels, the door skin, and the roof. As far as the sound deadening, for the foam, we got pretty much 100% coverage, except we could still do a little more on the actual skin of the doors. That could still use a little more, but everywhere else we got 100% coverage in both. So 2 boxes of each, and we did the doors and the roof. Just saying, it's worth it. So I've been a big fan of Noico for a couple years now, and they actually recently sent me some free product to review and make videos about, which is convenient because that's pretty much what I've been doing, except this time I didn't have to pay for it. So shouts out to them for that. So there's definitely going to be some more sound deadening videos coming up in the very near future. The next thing coming up is either going to be the VM1 install and or the USB port retention adapter install. I don't know, we'll see how much there is to talk about, but either way, those 2 things are coming up either together or separately. I also have some big news about the sub amp, although similar to my name, the news is not good. So that video is gonna be pretty short. It's just gonna be a quick little update. I'm sure you can probably guess what it is at this point, but yeah, pretty sure that's all. Until the next time, always hear the bad news first. That's what the inside of a Sundown SCV 1500D looks like. I don't recommend what I'm about to do.